How's it going, everyone? Alex with Jeeps Limited here. So in this video, we are exploring the land between the lakes. The land between the lakes is, as it sounds, it's land between two lakes. It's technically an inland peninsula in western Kentucky. It is a absolutely massive national forest that is just loaded with trails. And there's technically an off-road park there, Turkey Bay. This place is so big, we didn't even have time to get to Turkey Bay. It's loaded with trails, loaded with old abandoned roads. It's even got some old abandoned structures, an abandoned hotel, an abandoned bus, all kinds of things. And along with that, it's got a working homestead, and it's got just a big prairie full of buffalo. There's all kinds of places to go explore and all kinds of awesome things that you can find. Along with all those cool things you can find out on the trail, there's tons of little ponds, or we'll call them lakes even, within the area. There's plenty of places you can access Kentucky Lake and Lake Berkeley, and there's also a handful of pretty nice campgrounds in the land between the lakes, actual campgrounds, and I do believe there's plenty of areas where you can just go ahead and boondock and camp wherever you want. We chose to stay in a campground because that's what we do. That's how we roll, which was a really nice campground, more situated on the north part of the land between the lakes. We took this trip Memorial Day weekend, so it was warm. It did rain on us a little bit one of the days we were there, but we really didn't let that stop us. It never really does when it comes to something like off-roading, because you know what? Hey, we're in the car, so the rain really doesn't slow us down too much. We spent 2 full days and nights exploring this place and didn't even hardly scratch the surface of what there is out there to find. Among all those other things I listed, there's, I believe, hundreds of old cemeteries just out down all these random sidetrack roads, in which we explored a lot of those. Some of them date back all the way to the mid-1800s, which are really, really cool to see. Which actually brings me to this first trail that we're on right now. This was one of the first trails that we hit. We just started exploring, basically. One of the first trails we hit here is very overgrown and goes out to an abandoned cemetery, which was really cool to see. As you can see, this trail clearly is not driven often, and by the way, that was one of probably 20 trees that we either had to clear or figure out how to drive over, because there is a bunch of trees down. Anyway, this trail, which I promise we are on a trail right here, it's that overgrown, is leading back to a cemetery that had one actual gravestone in it, and then the rest of them were just stones. I don't know how they were placed or who placed them there, but stones that were placed because they believe and or know that there are people there, but the whole cemetery consists of one actual gravestone. And if I recall, this one was probably one of the older ones that we saw that dated back easily like 150 years or so. In total, I would say we probably stopped and checked out 10 or 15 cemeteries. They're just really cool for us to see, and it always made us wonder what these properties looked like back when people were settling them and who might have lived there back in the past. Here they are. Here's some really old ones, some really cool headstones that we saw that we just wanted to take pictures of. And again, we're just interested in the history of these people that used to live there. Most of the trails, especially the well-marked trails, are pretty nice and smooth and gravelly. But you just got to be careful, because there was a couple of rutted out sections here. I'm sure they're going to fix this. There's a drain that looks like it blew out. But just be careful. Otherwise, the majority of the roads are pretty nice and smooth, kind of like this. So you can really take almost any vehicle through this area and have a really good time and still find some pretty cool sights to see. Some of the more interesting stuff was a little bit more off the beaten path, but for most vehicles, you could make your way through this. There's probably 4 or 5 actual campgrounds on the land between the lakes. We stayed at the Hillman Ferry campground, which is more almost to the very northern tip of the land between the lakes, right when you cross the bridge, pretty much. It was a really nice campground, to be honest with you. The setup was kind of a little goofy for the tent camping, but otherwise, it was a nice, well kept property. The bathrooms were really nice, which is always nice. It is a huge campground. There's plenty other campgrounds there, but I will say, for Memorial Day weekend, I was looking in like January, February, and they were already getting pretty filled. So if you're gonna go, especially on like a holiday weekend or a busy weekend, definitely book your campsite ahead of time. And I do know there are plenty of places where you can just camp off the trail. I don't know what the restrictions are. I do know we did see some random campsites along the trails, but a lot of campsites on the lakes, which would be really cool to just be out there on the water camping out under the stars like that. That's not something we've ever done. Something we always talk about doing, but quite honestly, we probably don't have the balls to do it. Nor do we have, are we prepared with the equipment to do such a thing? If we don't have somewhere to plug in our skillet, we're not going to be able to make breakfast, and that's going to be a problem. So anyway, plenty of camping. Just if you're going to camp at one of the actual campgrounds, definitely make sure you make your reservations ahead of time. And otherwise, the camping was affordable. It was cheap, just like any other campground. One of the cool abandoned structures that we found, I believe they refer to it as Hotel California, Before all of this land was taken over by the government to create this national forest, there was somebody who was actually building a hotel or a motel, whatever it was, on the land between the lakes, pretty close to what I believe was on the Lake Berkeley side. It's supposed to be like a nice resort or a nice retreat type place, and it never got finished. The construction on it just stopped once that land was taken. It's pretty easy to get to. It's off of a main road. It's a little bit of a hike down to get to it, but otherwise it's pretty accessible. And as you can see, it is just riddled with graffiti. And to be honest with you, the structure is in such bad shape, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few years it inevitably falls down. This area here is the Buffalo Prairie. This area was kind of cool. It was $5 to get in, and it's just basically a big paved loop you can drive around. It was kind of neat, but also a little bit disappointing. We did see the buffalo, but they were like way off in the distance, and we only saw maybe like 4 or 5 of them. I don't know how many buffalo are there, but just something to do. It's kind of interesting. I'm more of a fan of the conspiracy theory that the buffalo were actually put here at the land between the lakes because the land between the lakes is supposedly haunted, or not haunted, but terrorized by a dog man or wolf man, whatever they call him, more or less like some kind of big werewolf type thing. And supposedly they put the buffalo there so that the dog man would eat the buffalo and not eat all the people camping on the side of the trail. So I like that theory better. Maybe that's why there aren't so many buffalo left. Maybe the dog man got them all. Who knows? Either way, still a fun thing to do. It was a little bit rainy, so we were just kind of looking for things to do in the car, do some sightseeing in the car without having to go out and get too wet. There were several different types of trails, I would call them, through the land between the lakes. there is a paved road that just runs north-south through the whole thing. And off of that paved road, there's other paved roads that are just thinner and narrower, all pretty smooth. And then branching off of those and off of the main road is a bunch of gravel roads, nice, wide, maintained gravel roads. And as you get a little bit further off those beaten paths, the trails inevitably start to get a little bit tighter and a little bit more narrow and less maintained. We were kind of looking for those less maintained roads, in which we definitely found some. We found some that were really hard to get through that actually did require four-wheel drive and a little bit of technical driving. But again, as I said before, pretty much anybody can come out here and see these sites and get to the Buffalo and get to the Homestead and get to some of the other sightseeing, or anybody that maybe has a low clearance 4x4 can get down a lot of these trails and still see some pretty cool stuff. But we just, generally speaking, look for those paths less traveled. We also feel like those, roads that nobody goes down, those are probably the ones that have the best hidden secrets back there. So that's generally what we look for. One of the other cool things we found out there is an old abandoned bus that's probably been laying around since the 50s or 60s. It was off of a main trail, but you do have to hike a little bit, well, like probably not even half a mile to get to it. Definitely worth it. It's just an old abandoned bus laying out there, and to us, these are the cool things that we like to find, because we sit there for 20 minutes looking at this thing thinking, why is this here? How did this get here? And what maybe there was, houses here, or was this an old junkyard? Or we just are really curious as to the backstory of a lot of this stuff. And unfortunately for us, we'll probably really never know, but it's definitely something that we like to think about. And we'll, while we're standing there looking at it, come up with all these crazy scenarios of why we think it's there. But otherwise, another cool thing to check out. This one, I do believe you can just find on Google Maps, and it'll take you right to it. And like I said, it's a pretty easy little walk right from the trail to it. A couple of other interesting things that you can see out there. There is a working homestead that has several different buildings that are, I believe, native to the land between the lakes that were relocated onto this one section and turned into a working homestead. I mean, they have, I don't know how else to describe that. That's what it is. They've got people working there that will tell you about it. They got blacksmithing going on. They have animals, hogs, ducks, chickens, all kinds of stuff there. I was like $7 to get in, and you can walk around and just do some sightseeing there and maybe learn a little bit about the area. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that's really easy to find, it's right on the main road, is an old, I believe it's like an iron ore furnace. It was a smelter for some of the iron, I guess, that was mined in the area. I believe it was iron. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me as like an expert on the land between the lakes, because I'm not. I'm just kind of regurgitating all this random information that I learned about the land between the lakes to you guys because I think it's interesting. But this is right off the side of the road. It's been there since, I believe, the mid 1800s, and it's pretty cool. Just something to see while you're there, and it's really easy to get to. There's also an abandoned house that I believe it's the only house left on the property. There's a big backstory as to why the house is still there. I guess the guy that lived there inevitably refused to leave when the government took over the land through eminent domain. He would not leave. So they more or less let him stay there until he inevitably, just grew old and passed away. And now, rather than tearing down the building, they actually fenced it off so nobody can get to it and ruin it. And I do believe they have plans to actually restore it back to what it was, more original. And if I recall, doing some research afterwards, I believe the house is, as of right now in 2025, over 100 years old. So it's pretty cool. We found it just by driving down the road, and there it was on the side of the road. So we stopped and checked it out, and it was really, really cool. So it's just one of those things. Love to know the backstory of it. We were able to find out some information on it, which was cool. But just one of those things. It's fun we were just exploring the area and stumbled upon it. It's kind of like why we like to do this stuff, is you just never know what you're going to find out there.
Go.
There's definitely no shortage of challenges out here, from all of these fallen trees that you're going over, under, or removing, to huge washed out areas that you've got to straddle like this, or washed out areas there you've got no choice but to take the ditch and just ride it. Plenty of challenging areas. We really enjoyed it. And, we like to get into some harder trails sometimes, and these trails were really enjoyable for us to drive on, which just really makes it more exciting. Getting to do all the sightseeing and exploring and having to lock it into four-wheel low and disconnect the sway bars just to get through some of the stuff is really a lot of fun for us.
No, not so much. There you go. Driver. Keep it, driver. There you go. Straighten it out. Bring it, passenger. There you go. Keep it that way. Yep. Keep it that way. Start bringing it, driver. Straighten out a little bit. There you go, now driver. Let's start turning driver out of it. I know, see it?
Little driver. Oh, whatever. Okay. Little driver.
Driver.
Less driver. There you go. Driver. Driver. It really didn't.
Doesn't do much.
You're hardly driving where we're telling you to. It's just working though. Well, go a little bit driver. Okay, now go straighten up. Okay, stay right there. Just like forward. Little driver. Some of the other cool things you can do that we don't have much video or pictures of, a lot of trails just take you to the lakes. Lake Kentucky or Berkeley Lake, I believe is what it is. I think I called it Lake Berkeley earlier, whichever it is. Massive lakes. They're huge. They run the entire length on both sides of the peninsula, and just so many of these trails just take you to these lakes. And some of the trails are cool because the trails are older than the lakes are, and some of the trails take you directly into the water, and you can see where the road continues on the other side of the lake. So definitely just a really neat thing. Plenty of areas you can camp on the water, plenty of areas you can sightsee on the water, and just really, really cool thing. And you can just see these massive lakes anywhere you go pretty much on this land. Like I mentioned before, there are a lot of trees that were down, and some of them, like this one, were pretty large. We had to make our way over some of them, make our way under one of them, as you saw, and probably 5 or 7 trees we ended up taking quite a bit of time to clear them, just because there's no way to get by without moving that tree out of our way. And we like to help and get these trees cleared and keep these trails open for everybody else. Luckily for us, we always have a chainsaw, some axes, and some saws to be able to clear this stuff out of the way. All of the roads and trails here, with the exception of, I believe, anything at Turkey Bay, it's open 24/7, 365, so we spent quite a bit of time out on the trails at night. We like to do the night wheeling and everything. It's always more fun to explore and find abandoned things in the dark sometimes, too. We actually did find an old abandoned chapel, whatever exactly it was, which was really cool. We found it at night. You can go inside of it. It is restored, but it is an original structure to the land between the lakes. And it's one of the original structures that you can actually go into, so definitely if you're there, don't destroy it. It's pretty cool. And it also has an actual cemetery right next to it, which was kind of spooky to find in the middle of the night.
How's it feel, Kyle? The first recovery of the day. Yeah, you ready? Yep. Send it. There you go.
The night wheeling is always interesting. You never know what's going to happen. We love going out at night. I don't know why. It's almost more fun than going out during the day. First off, it's nice and cool out. But secondly, I don't know. We've just always liked it. It's nice and eerie and creepy, and it just makes it a little bit more fun. One thing we did see, we saw, I kid you not, probably 50 deer in the course of like a 20-mile drive down the main road. So definitely watch out for the deer if you're out there. There's all kinds of other wildlife too. We saw deer, all kinds of different birds, armadillo. The whole trip we probably saw 100 deer. It was crazy. I've never seen so many deer out there. That was really cool to see. And another reason why I like going out at night, we were on the hunt for the dog man the whole time. And unfortunately, we did not find him. But it's just like this nice, cool, creepy vibe you get out there. There's plenty of ghost stories about how the land between the lakes is supposedly haunted by spirits and just ghosts and a ghost truck driver, all kinds of different ghost stories on who's supposed to be haunting the land between the lakes. So that to me just kind of makes it a little bit more fun to go out and explore at night. Well, guys, that's pretty much all I have for you. Really, to summarize, land between the lakes, put it on your list because it's cool. We drove down from Chicago on Saturday morning. We got there around 1 p.m. We spent all the rest of the day Saturday and all day Sunday exploring this, and we had nowhere near enough time. We hit hardly a fraction of the trails there, and like I said, there's an entire off-road park there, Turkey Bay. We didn't even make it to the off-road park on this off-roading trip. So definitely go for more than 3 days. Like, you could probably fill up 4 days with this. Plus, you can just go into Tennessee, and there's plenty of other stuff you can see in Tennessee, south of the land between the lakes. So definitely give yourself a bunch of time. But overall, really awesome trip. We saw a lot of stuff, and it's definitely a trip. It's up there with my favorites. Maybe up there almost as high as the 7-hour plane crash trail we did last year, which was cool. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys get out there and explore the land between the lakes.